which includes the minutes of the. Okay, regular agenda. Was this not on the conditional?
It's not on the consent agenda. So the only item
First,
is
the consent agenda would be approval of the minutes of the last
Yep.
meeting. Do you have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second to approve the minutes of the last meeting? Still waiting for a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we have one regular agenda, item number 2.
All right, Kevin Hookman, County Planning Department again. Item number 2 is a conditional use permit number 1563 to exceed 1,200 square feet, an accessory building, and the petitioner is requesting 3,600 square feet. The property is located approximately a quarter mile to the south of the intersection of West 12th Street and Sertoma Avenue, and is nearly surrounded by city limits. It is accessed currently from a service road on city property. The property includes a single-family dwelling that is in poor condition. The petitioner has noted that he plans on replacing as well. The petitioner's request for 3,600 square foot accessory building is proposed to be on the north half of the lot of the parcel. It is sloped a bit, and it may have problematic with future access through Sertoma Avenue. But as you can see, he has proposed on this map access here. However, access will likely come off of, but through the property in this direction in the future. The site plan indicates the accessory building will meet the minimum front yard setback requirements, and then the east property line is to be considered as the front yard because of its location along Sertoma, and that's where the access is. The location is in a suburban style subdivision where few properties have large accessory building. The property to the northwest does have several buildings that equal approximately 2,600 square feet of accessory building. The proposed accessory building will be the largest single accessory building in the area, and typically staff has limited accessory buildings to the size of the largest nearby structure. Therefore, staff is recommending for this conditional use permit that the accessory building be limited to 2,600 square feet or 2,600 square feet. As part of the conditional use, there are several criteria that should be met. The effect of the upon the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the uses already permitted, and upon property values in the immediate vicinity. There should have little impact on the surrounding existing uses. The site does have a significant buffer from the surrounding other land uses. There's an existing berm that's located along the east side on the city property, and it's heavily wooded. The number 2, the effect upon normal and orderly development and improvement of the vacant property for uses predominant in the area. This will likely develop into a single-family residential area surrounding areas. Future access to the property, as discussed earlier, will be may be problematic, but will have to be worked through by the petitioner as new roads are built and new access is obtained. Number 3, utilities and access roads, drained and or necessary facilities are provided. All of this infrastructure is in place for this site. Number 4, the off-street parking and loading requirements are met. There is no off-street parking that is needed for this particular land use, as it is essentially parking. Number 5, that measures are taken to control offensive odors, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, lighting, and none of these will constitute a nuisance. No nuisances will be permitted at any time, and that lighting should be directed downward. Staff will also like to see that no commercial property or commercial businesses are used in this building as well. So it's used for personal storage only. Staff finds that the proposed accessory building is appropriate when the building is sized to generally conform to the neighborhood. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit number 1563 with the following conditions. 1, the total accessory building square footage shall not exceed 2,600 square feet. 2, that a building permit is required prior to construction of the accessory building. 3, that accessory building shall not exceed 35 feet in height and meet the setback requirements for the zoning district. 4, that an inspection be made on the proposed new accessory building to ensure that the square feet of the floor area in the building does not exceed 2,600 square feet. 5, that only personal or residential storage shall be allowed in the building and no commercial uses of commercial storage shall be allowed at any time. 6, that outdoor lighting shall be a full cutoff, fully shielded design to prevent direct spillage of light beyond the property boundaries. 7, that the Planning and Zoning Department reserves the right to enter and inspect the accessory building at any time after the proper notice to the owner to ensure that the property is in full compliance with the conditional use permit conditions of approval and the Minnehaha County zoning ordinance. I can go through the pictures a little bit. As noted, this is the site plan for the property. This is a picture of approximately where the building's going to be located. You can see that it's sloped pretty heavily, and it is fairly wooded. There's the existing house that's on site. This is the driveway that's on city property right now that's being used for access. It is a crushed asphalt driveway, and it's fairly steep slope, as you can see. This is the driveway looking to the south. This would be the neighboring house. It is presumably not lived in, looking by the condition. And then this is that berm on the east side, looking from the location of the accessory building. So, are there any questions?
Any questions?
Okay, Bill. Do you have any idea when the city of Sioux Falls will be looking to annex this property?
Maybe Diane can help you with that.
Diane Boyer, City of Sioux Falls planning staff. I don't know the exact schedule to have this annexed in, but because it is essentially an island with all city around it, it should be within the next 3 years. That's the best guess I have.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good question. Kevin, you said the property to the northwest that has several buildings?
It had,
Total 2,600 square feet?
I believe it's 2.
Okay, so what the largest single building is?
A little more than half of that, because the one building is, I can't remember, but the one building is about, I don't know, 2,000 or 1,800 square feet, somewhere around there.
Thank you.
Any other questions, staff?
Question for Diane. Can you talk a little bit about the access and if Seratoma is an option or not?
Sure. On the site plan that's up on the screen right now, there is access to the house. I believe from the north, they do have that to Sertoma. But on the south end, from 15th to Sertoma, that road does not exist. They will be able to get it from 15th onto their site, but they will not be allowed, based on my conversation with the traffic engineers with the City of Sioux Falls, they will not get the access onto Sertoma on that south end. Or the north end, I guess I've got it switched. So the north end, they won't get that. Thank you, yes.
Right here.
That's the south end.
That's the south end.
Okay, then I was right, south.
Any other questions, staff, before we hear from the petitioner?
Does that mean 15th is not going through, is that right?
No, it would not go through.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, please come forward, state your name and address.
Hi, Robert Gillen, 7604 West Boysenberry Street. I do have, as far as the access, the city of Sioux Falls has granted me access as of September 16th on the south access road. And they'll grant that as long as it's a single family dwelling. So there's no date on that access other than it's just stipulated that it has to be a single family dwelling. But they will let me access off Saratoga on the south side. The north side, I think they're gonna, I'm not sure what they're gonna do with that. If they're gonna vacate that or what they're gonna do with it.
Excuse me, sir, but that street, like where the red dot is right now, the cursor, now that street exists currently?
Yes, actually that
Try to
is,
picture that, because I don't remember seeing that when I come
the
down.
street that goes through all the way to 15th Street, there's really no street there. That was just drawn in. Right now that access goes to where that driveway curves off, right there. There's an access that goes down to Saratoga, and then that goes all the way straight down to the north access coming back out on Saratoga.
Yes.
Yes. And 15th Street that's just drawn in on that map, but that's not gonna go through. The only access that we would have is the south side of that property off Saratoga up to where the house is existing. And that's depending on where you allow me to build a building or what you'd allow me to build there. Because my initial thought was to go straight up off that south entrance and put the building up straight to the west there. And then the city could vacate that whole, I guess it's a driveway is what they call it. But they did grant me access on the south side.
And when you say they granted you access, that's in writing, or how was that?
Yes, it's right here.
Okay, and your feelings relative to the size?
Well, the reason I want the building is I have a fifth wheel camper, of course, and then some other vehicles or whatever, or older vehicles that have been restored, and toys, whatever, both. The idea of using that square footage, I could go down to about 3,000 square foot and still make the fifth wheel work and park in there. If you go any lower than that, there's no way in the world I'll be able to park that inside. So I'd like to maybe negotiate from the 32, go down to 3,000 or somewhere in that neighborhood to make that work.
Okay.
Other than that, the rest of it, it's not going to be used for any commercial use whatsoever. We're going to build a new house on that property, and it's just going to be, the building itself will look residential as much as it can according to what the house we're going to build. And it'll be all kept up. I've already started cleaning up that lot. As you can see on some of the pictures, it needs a lot of work.
So that's the access point, 600.
So what type of structure are you talking?
Southeast and then
For the building,
that's that north side.
Just a regular steel pole
it'd be
building?
a steel building. It'd be
Standard.
we've looked at this pole building and we've looked at the steel, and I guess it'd be steel. The exterior could be done either way. I'm open to that because I want a nice looking exterior. So it could be a residential looking exterior. The walls would be a 14-foot sidewall, so it wouldn't exceed that 35-foot limit that they were talking about. So you'd be 14 feet on the sidewall, and the length of it, the size of the building that I wanted to go with was a 40 by 80, which is 3,200 square feet. The size that I could make work would be like a 40 by 75, which would be 3,000 square feet.
Or a 40 by 60,
Which is 2,400. But it's not long enough. I've got a fifth wheel camper, and in my pickup, there's no way in the world I'd be able to fit it in there. To back the thing in there it just wouldn't work. So that was kind of the idea of doing that. If you go narrow, it's going to look kind of out of shape. Where if you go the wider building and the 14-foot sidewalls, the length, according to the lot, because the lot measures 165 feet back, so it'd give you plenty of room to build that in there.
Okay.
And that's kind of the thought behind it.
Okay. Is there something on the access?
Yeah, I think
that you want
Diane
bring
wants to
up?
clarify something.
Let's see, while he's up there, so you can.
Yeah, this is talking about the access. It allows across the property, oops, I just lost it, approximately 1,100 feet north of the center line of Stony Creek Street from 12th Street. So we have a difference of opinion from the city engineers, but the access is not part of this conditional use anyway, so we can hash that out in the future with the city.
I believe this is from the center of the Stony Creek Street, which would be further to the south. I think that's where they're getting their measurements from. What they're talking about on here, at least is what I got out of it, was the north access, which is 690 feet off 12th Street. That's the road that they do not want us to access. The one to the south, which is 1,130 feet from the center line of Stony Creek Street, is the one that they're talking about. At least that's what I got out of this.
Again, we have
Like
a
I say, we
different,
don't have to deal with that today.
right, we'd have a difference of opinion from our city engineer, so we'll get
Okay.
it clarified. But
Okay.
again, it shouldn't have any bearing on your
Okay.
conditional use at this time, so.
Okay.
this is
Anything
a
else
copy.
you'd like to add,
Sure.
sir?
What's that?
Anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, that's really about it.
Okay, is anyone else in the audience? Oh, you have one more question?
I have a question. Just how big is this fifth wheel? How long?
It's 40 feet, and then the pickup's 20, so it's 60 feet. So you're looking at, by the time you back in and whatever, you got to have at least 5 feet behind or whatever to maneuver around. That's why I'm going to need that length.
Well, I'm just curious because I'm just throwing out numbers if my own
Sure.
mind. If you had a 30 by 80 building, that's 80 feet long. And that would be 2,400 square feet. You still don't think you could get that pickup?
Well, 30 foot wide though is going to me, if you make the building wider and not, well, it's, the wider it looks, the more residential I think you're going to get, is my thought. Because if you make it really narrow and long, it's going to look just like a barn or whatever.
Pickup absolutely has to be
So if you did it
in
more,
front of the camper. It can't be off to the side someplace.
what's that?
The pickup. Does it have to be in front of the camper? Could it be off to the side? someplace?
Well, I'm just thinking when I come home from camping or whatever, you want to back the whole thing in and just shut it off and leave it there is what my thought is.
Okay. One more quick question. Any trees going to be removed?
Yes,
I saw a lot of pine trees there. Look beautiful. Are
those are going to stay. As many as the pine trees, any of the trees that are good are going to stay. I've actually already cut down a lot of, I don't know, I should say brush, I should say. It's not really trees. And then there's a few dead trees that are going to come out of there. But for the most part, as many trees as we can leave, we're going to leave.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Anyone else in the audience want to address this item? If not, we'll close the floor, and the way we'll handle this is we'll listen to your discussion first, and then before you vote, we'll have a discussion, and then we'll do our motion. Okay?
Recommendation on the city side?
Motion to approve for discussion.
Motion? Second? Motion and second, discussion?
Can I follow up with some questions for Diane? So in a couple of years, if this were in this city, I mean, what would the city's thoughts be on a 3,000 or 2,600 square foot accessory building?
I think based on what both the county and city propose right now within the zoning ordinance is 1,200 square feet. That is what the city would expect to find there once it's annexed into the city.
Thank you.
Discussion?
Just, I can give you my personal opinion. It seems to be too big to me, especially surrounded by city and residential. So I think that would look very out of character as you drive through that neighborhood to see residential houses and then a 2 or 3 or 3,500 square foot accessory building next to a house. I don't think I can support this one.
Other comments? I agree. All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Okay, on the county side, any thoughts relative to this?
Well, I have to say, I kind of agree with Nick. I know the residential stuff just to the west, and it's not in character with that. And certainly, you know, once it's in the city, you know, it'll curb and gutter and all that kind of stuff. It's going to, it's not really going to fit, I don't think.
Any other thoughts? And then we'll need a motion. Is there a motion on our side? Approval or denial? Or modification, what's there?
I'd make a motion to allow an accessory building which footage shall not exceed 2,600 square feet. It's smaller than what he would like, but
Okay.
Do have one question.
Okay. Go ahead.
If this is denied, is there a certain amount of time before the petitioner can come back with?
He appeals to the county, to the 20 county joint city council, right?
He can.
joint.
He can either go with whatever recommendation you make. If he's not comfortable or doesn't want that, he can appeal your decision to the joint city-county elected officials, the county commissioners, city council.
Thanks. We have a motion.
You don't have a second.
We have a second. Okay, now we have a motion and a second. So I guess we are ready to vote. Vote on your shit. Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Let's let you vote first.
I'm sorry.
Why don't you go ahead and vote first? So they can record the votes.
Was it approving at what size? That's my question.
My motion was 2,600.
On our side.
Their motion as well as ours.
Did you go with the staff recommendation,
Yeah.
which was 2,600?
Yeah.
Is that what we're agreeing to as well?
Is that your motion?
Is that your motion?
Yes. It's 26.
All right, so we have a motion to, a second to approve the staff recommended size of 2,600 square feet. All in favor, signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign.
Yes.
We have two. We have 2 for and 2 against. And I vote, correct? And I would vote denial as well. So the motion does not pass on our side.
Okay, on the county side, we have a motion to approve with conditions. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Motion carries on the county side. That's a split decision, and that goes to the joint.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Joint county. Okay, that's our last item. So we'll adjourn this joint portion. What's that?
That's my motion.
Yes.
Second.
Okay. We are adjourned. We will